What does he think of Bruce Lee's Wing Chun?
His comment?
Sorry?
You want his comment or what?
Yeah, what did you think of Bruce Lee's Wing Chun skills?
佢師傅你點睇李小龍嘅詠春係去到乜嘢程度啊？
李小龍係肌肉型嚟嘅，佢係訓練自己啲肌肉好強壯好敏捷咁樣，佢就唔係講我哋呢種念頭嗰種心法嚟嘅。
Bruce Lee's Wing Chun is very different from ours. It's basically still muscular way of generating power in high speed. So it's different.
Did he train Sifu's way, like at one stage at the start?
李小龍有冇似師傅你呢種咁嘅訓練方法曾經訓練過咁樣？李小龍
佢冇呢一樣咧，睇下好難去模仿到嘅。咁所以佢係點樣？佢嚟我間館睇過我3日之後，我未見過佢，我就係嗰3日識佢嘅啫。
First of all, this kind of Wing Chun is quite hard to copy just from appearance. Then for Bruce Lee's case, he came to Sigong's place for 3 days, and he came across with him just for that 3 days, and then disappeared. So no, that's it.
之前我未見過佢，我識佢就係嗰3日。
Yeah, before that 3 days, those 3 days, he didn't know Bruce Lee, and after he didn't show up again.
What other martial arts does Sigong respect?
Expect?
Respect.
Oh, respect.
Which other ones?
師傅除咗詠春之外，你會唔會覺得有第二種嘅武術？你覺得都係值得去認識，或者係你覺得都係有用嘅咧？
假如你自己到咁上下，你乜嘢都可以去認識一下唔拘嘅，因為你了解嗰個嘅基本嘅結構嘅作用。假如邊一種符合力學嘅結構咧，咁你去認識下係無妨嘅。
To him, after you have acquired this core part of Wing Chun, the mechanism, the way, then you are quite free to extend your knowledge or extend your understanding beyond Wing Chun on others, but with this as the basis.
Okay, so I just wanted to point out a couple of things about what Sigong said about Bruce Lee. Talking to him about Bruce Lee, he would always actually speak highly of his skill level. He would say that he uses, even though he uses muscular force, he was very, very skilled, very strong in being able to utilize his body through mechanic structure to get huge power for his size. And one thing that he pointed out, he said as a fighter, Bruce Lee was very, very good, because the thing he said to me is because he wasn't scared to fight anyone. He'd take on anyone, anytime. So his courage, coupled with his skill and his power, he'd figured out how to develop enormous power, even using muscular effort. That made him a very, those two coupled together made him a very, very good fighter. But I've had the privilege to actually meet a couple of Bruce Lee's friends when they were teenagers back here in Hong Kong, and they told me some stories about, actually these people are either students of Sigong or very early students of Sigong from the late 50s and early 60s, or they are Ip Man students that practice with Sigong. Because back in the day, the way Ip Man school worked was that juniors would, or even juniors and seniors, I mean even someone that started a year before you was your senior, right? So the seniors were the ones that were actually running the classes for Ip Man school. And Leung Sheng and Lok Yu were before Chu Shong Tin. Lok Yu left the Ip Man school quite early on to teach in his own school. Leung Sheng was there, but he wasn't teaching much because he had his job. So the main teacher was actually Sigong, was Chu Shong Tin, and later on Wong Shong Leung as well. So thinking about Bruce Lee's mentality, after I heard how Bruce was when he was a teenager, it was just all about fighting. He wanted to be the best fighter. So that's why I can understand why him coming to Chu Shong Tin's class, he said in the video, he said he came 3 times, 3 days in a row. He wanted to get a gist of what he's saying, and I guess maybe because Sigong would have been, even back then, talking about, you know, relaxation and stuff like that. Maybe he didn't understand, being a young man, Bruce didn't understand how the internal aspect actually is very good, very useful for developing power, speed, for fighting in general. So maybe that's why he didn't come back. But most people know he went on to, he's one of the biggest influence he had was from Wong Chong Long. Bruce Lee's biggest influence out of Ip Man students was from Wong Chong Long. But a couple of people that I met, one of them was actually Sigong's student, one of his earliest students. His nickname is the Dice Man, Sek Dai, which means the Dice Man. And he's a lovely guy. He's much older now, in his 70s, and sitting down talking to him, he's still very, very vibrant. I mean, he has trouble walking, but he's still very vibrant, always cracking jokes. Very, very nice man. And actually, he had the same. So he was a very good dancer. He had the same Cha-Cha teacher as Bruce Lee. You know, so that's how outside of Kung Fu, that's how they knew each other as well. And Sek Dai is actually, out of all of Sigong's students, he's known as one of the fierce fighters. I mean, they all were, or there's a lot of them that were back then, but he was one of the main ones, you know. And his attitude was to go out, similar to Bruce, to go out looking for it, rather than just what Sigong had a lot of fights, challenge fights, but he would just accept challenges. So when people would come to Ip Man school, he was the one that would step up and take the challenges. Him, Wong Chong Long also, but Sek Dai, similar to Bruce Lee, similar to Wong Chong Long, they were the ones going out also looking for it. So he was hanging around mainly the Portuguese. There was a lot of Portuguese back then in Hong Kong because they would just come from Macau. And he said the triads didn't like the Portuguese, and there was stuff going on. There was sort of turf wars going on, and because he hung around the Portuguese, they thought he said that they thought I was Portuguese as well, so he would get into a lot of trouble with them. So a lot of fighting would happen. Another person that was a good friend of Bruce Lee's, that told us a few cool stories about Bruce Lee and in the beginning of and how he started Wing Chun, was one of Ip Man's student named Ngai Chun Ho, and he's the guy in the picture that's standing to the right of, to the left of Sigong's photo, the one that's got his arms around Chris. And that night, actually, he sat down and he was telling us for about an hour cool stories about back in the day. And he was saying that actually Bruce, the story that he said, the way Bruce Lee started training under Ip Man was because he beat up someone at school, this rich guy. And this rich guy, Bruce beat the rich guy up, and this guy went to William Chung, and he told him, you know, he said, this guy's beating me up, you know, come and help me out. So William Chung went there, and apparently they had a fight, and William Chung beat Bruce. And he said, and this man said that's why Bruce was so smart, because instead of sort of, you know, saying I'll get you later, whatever, he said, who's your teacher? Can I please start training with your teacher? And that's how he came and became a disciple of Ip Man. And he said that they were quite close, and their crew was him, the Dice Man, William Chung, Bruce, and he talked about also Derek Fung, Sifu Derek Fung, which is teaching in Sydney now. And he said all these guys were, especially Bruce and William Chung, especially Bruce Lee, were, you know, he said they were troublemakers, man. They would go out and they would just, you know, it was them against the world. They would just take on anyone. They'll say whatever they want, take on anyone. And for that reason, he said that's one of the main reasons why Bruce had to get out of Hong Kong, because he was wanted he was hated, you know, by the triads. He beat up too many people, and there was a lot of people out to get him. And yeah, so, you know, but me personally, you know, and I think a lot of people will agree with me, Bruce Lee, what he went on to achieve was remarkable. I mean, the martial arts, I believe, even mixed martial arts, wouldn't be where it is now if it wasn't because of Bruce Lee. And to think about what he had achieved, and he died at 32. I mean, imagine what he could have gone on to achieve, you know. So as Sigong said, he was using a muscular force, and that's why he didn't get the internal part of Wing Chun, and that's why he said, yeah, Wing Chun's not complete, and he had to add other stuff to it. But if you think about the way he, you know, if you read his books and the way he spoke, he was very philosophical. You know, at a young age, he was talking about the Tao. He had a lot of Buddhism quotes. You know, things like your ego is your worst enemy. Be water. You know, things like that. So he was. It seems like even though he was practicing the external and he was very, you know, he was a master at what he was doing external styles, he was seemingly going towards the internal side. You know, so who knows what he would have. I mean, with that foundation that he had. Who knows what he would have delved into if he kept going into the internal arts. But one thing's for sure that, and a lot of, you know, very good UFC fighters, people MMA would agree that Bruce Lee is the father of mixed martial arts. You know, and a lot of boxers. I mean, you can just YouTube it, see how many people talk good things about Bruce Lee, about what he had achieved. So, I think we all, I know personally, I think half of the Wing Chun world wouldn't have started Wing Chun or even martial arts if it wasn't because of Bruce. So yeah, so we got a lot to thank him for, and yeah, it's a shame. I mean, such is life, but it's a shame that he had to leave so early. So yeah, I thought I'll just put this video together just to share some of the things that people have told me about Bruce Lee. So I hope you found it interesting.